Talk to me, man. Talk to me, man.
Come on, man. We're live, man.
All right,
We
you are in the broadcast.
we is
He is
live.
live.
Let's just take care of some sharing responsibilities here.
Live and direct.
Yeah, let's take care of some sharing responsibilities, and then we're about it. All right. So here's how about this though?
What's that?
Little grass is greener. Is that a way to start today?
Yeah, that'd be nice, man. I like that song.
All right, here we go.
Mm, yeah. They said the grass ain't greener on the other side, but she crossed that fence with a brand new stride. Didn't chase green, she chased the glow. Found a field where her roots could grow. They said you just running from pain. Nah, she was reaching for sun through rain. Cold love froze her veins like stone. So she built a fire and thought
I
alone. They
love the
said the
song.
grass ain't greener, baby, but I made it
Great
bloom.
song.
Turn my tears to rivers, let them run through the room. I found my light where the dark ones grew. They said it ain't greener, no, but they never saw my view. They say you regret what you had before, but she learned peace don't live behind locked doors. What she had was a whisper, dim and small. Now her voice shakes ceilings and cracks the wall. They said you'll end up lonely, that's your fate, but solitude served as something great. In the quiet she found a sound, in the stillness her soul unbound. They said you can't start over, girl, you're late, but time don't matter when you cultivate. She planted prayers, she watered pain, and grew herself back whole again. They said that side's just fantasy talk, but they ain't seen a garden walk. Barefoot truth beneath her feet, every
I'm gonna pause
heartbeat
the
a
music so you
drum,
can
every
just take it over
breath a beat.
acapella.
They said that they didn't know that greener grass just means you grow. It's not the side, it's how you tend. It's what you learn, it's who you met. So
Yeah,
let them talk, let rumors spin. She ain't walking
All right.
nowhere.
So I'll stop
yeah,
there.
that's great.
I really do like that song.
Yeah.
And just so people know, we are rocking hard on AI generated music.
Great
You can
lyrics
like it.
cannot be suppressed, my brother.
Yeah, you can like it or lump it. I sent a song out to a couple buddies yesterday who are musicians,
Hmm.
and I know not everyone's not comfortable with the AI concept. They don't know how to deal with it. So all I told them said, if your toe is tapping and your head is bobbing, it's good. You can, you know what I'm saying? Talk to
Yeah.
yourself if you have an issue with it. Anyway, all right. So we did an overview of Alter, and we were talking this morning. So for us at Optivist, you know, Fridays is follow-up Fridays. So it's kind of like closing things out, people we need to reconnect with before the week is out, that sort of thing. And then, it's kind of dealing with loose ends. And so one of them is around a product that for us is our flagship product, but we have discovered a challenge with it, right? And so the product is called Future Lens Pro, and what Future Lens does is a number of things. I don't know that we'll show it today because I want to have the conversation. Is it takes certain data from you, the user, and it provides back to you what we call a career intelligence report, right? Which is something it's pretty wild. Most of you have never heard those words put together like that before. So what is a career intelligence report? But it really is giving you the a different sort of 360 view of kind of what you've done, what the impact has been. And part of what it wants to do is to be able to use all the information that you provide and then show you where else your skills can be, can bring value, right? Like, so if you've been in a certain job class in manufacturing, for instance, that it can then show you. It's like, oh no, you could actually go to biomed, or you can go somewhere else, because it's looking at your transferable skills. It lays out compensation mapping, um, uh, tracking jobs against different industries, verticals, shows you where you have opportunities to grow. I mean, there's a ton in here. There's an AI coach, there's a job match, but before you can get to any of that, you have to complete two basic pieces of information. Aside from uploading your resume, you have to complete what we call the brag sheet, and then you have to complete the dream sheet. In simple language, the brag sheet is what you've done and what the impact of that is. The dream sheet is what you want to do, right? Environments you want to be in, people you want to work around. Um, and we have found that people struggle on that brag sheet. They lean into the dream sheet, but they struggle with the brag sheet. So I think this got us on this conversation about value, right? So I'm value driven. Sheldon, I know that you're value driven. The trap for people like us is, and for anybody who thinks a certain way, is you think everybody thinks that way, right? They
Right.
clearly don't. All right. So that's a lot of words on my part. But jump in there, because I had to go actually do some research, because I'm like having an moment here on the whole value thing, right? And our individual value proposition. So go ahead.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think a lot of people see what they do, but not why it matters, right?
There
And
you
it's
go.
hard to draw that line from I filed a piece of paper or I entered some information into a computer to and connecting that line to here's how it helped the organization or here's why it mattered to the organization that I did this. So being able to make that connection does require a shift in mindset, right? If I show up every day just to do a job, then I'm showing up to complete a task. But if I show up every day to add value, then I'm not just completing the task, but I'm thinking about the why I'm doing this and how
Hmm.
it connects to our vision, our mission, and things like that. And I think that's where the disconnect is. And it's a mindset shift. I think it's a true mindset shift.
So
And
but here's the challenge though, as I started thinking about this more, is if you're not focused on the value, one is what informs what you do, right? Like what is the driver then, if it's not that I'm here to bring value, to answer questions, solve problems, and meet needs? What are people doing with their time? And the other revelation is this is not like line workers or minimum wage people. We're talking about folks who've been in their career 5, 10, 20 years, who have
absolutely.
elevated. And when you ask them to disclose the value that they bring or the value that drives them, it's crickets. And that is the piece that's probably blowing my mind. Like again, we know if you're in a role that has MBOs, right? Management by objectives. So you're now talking about certain metrics, things that you know you have to accomplish specifically to get access to some of your variable comp, things like that. So I think
Hmm.
people in those job classes are more aware of what those things are. Like, what am I doing? What am I touching? Because they know the immediate reward is there. But
Right.
I don't know, dude. Like this even gets into why I think that salaried employment has. I don't know that it gives you much, right? Because you can go hard in the paint and work for 60 hours one week, and you can have another week where you just kind of maybe don't work so hard, and it's only 25 hours. Your paycheck is the same. So there's
Well,
nothing that tells you that you did anything more or less than the last pay cycle.
so I'm a little data geek and digging into some research. Statistically, about 18% of people say their job gives them purpose, a sense of purpose. So if I'm not feeling that sense of purpose, then it becomes that much more challenging to connect to the value that it's delivering. It's kind of like a
Yeah.
salesperson saying, I can't sell a product I don't believe in, right?
Hmm.
It's, yeah, if I can't connect to what I'm doing and the purposeful or the meaningfulness of it, then how can I then say, and here's why what I do matters? I'm not even trying to connect the dots. I think a lot of people work for a paycheck, unfortunately, or benefits and what they're getting out of it, not looking at what they're putting into it to get an outcome.
Right.
Um,
So
and
they're not
it's hard,
self-directed. They're not
right?
self-directed. They're waiting to
Right.
be told what to do.
Yeah.
So you went and did some research, and we're kind of familiar with these numbers. And so somewhere between 70 and 80% of people report that they are disengaged at work. So you're talking about the thing that gets you up in the morning, you know, you get dressed, showered, sit in front of a screen, get in a car, hop a train, wherever, to go to a place to be disengaged.
Yeah.
That piece,
It-
I'm stunned. Like for me, I had to stop right there. I am absolutely stunned because when I think about that, it's like, oh, your life sucks, right?
Not
No, no,
necessary. I- It,
I,
it depends, right?
how does it not?
So you have people that really want to just show up, do a job, and go home. I
And
mean,
then do
there are,
what?
and then use their money for whatever they want to do that brings them purpose. It doesn't have to be the job.
Oh God.
There are
What
those
is this? What
people.
does the stroke feel like? Ever just hearing you talk, it's just my chest is
There
getting
are those.
tight.
Hey,
Like
listen,
I
listen. I
can't,
just want to go get. How
dude.
many times have you heard somebody say, "I'm here to get my money and go home"?
But then do what? Okay, so I understand the means to an end conversation, right?
Hmm.
There's this thing that I do over here, right? Because it brings me money because there's something else I want to do. And we're going to
Right.
talk to this this life of obligation that everything you do is to pay bills. But it still says then that you are giving your life, your energy, your access to source. You are giving that completely to somebody else's dream vision. You are an automaton. You're exactly what the early version, like that sort of World War II version of the education system in America, which is really designed to make good factory workers, right? They needed people who could come do the same thing over and over, right? So what do we do in school? They give you some information, you study it, you regurgitate it. They give you something, and you and that is quote unquote an education. No, what they were teaching you is a pattern-based way of thinking, right? And then you add on the obligation and sort of the fantasy of the American dream. You got yourself a worker for life that's going to ask no
For
questions
life.
other than
Yeah.
what do you want me to do? I think that is horrible. I think it's
I,
horrible for the world. It's
I
horrible.
agree. I agree. And but I will say that you can't discount someone's passion if it's not connected to their work. And what I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, I don't want to go to a job that doesn't provide me with a sense of purpose, or that I'm connected to the mission. I understand the vision. I know why we're doing what we're doing. And I also know how the things I do every day move us closer to whatever that mission or goal is. I enjoy understanding that. I enjoy crafting some of those mission vision statements and strategy houses and all this good stuff that we put together to help drive our organization in a certain direction. But there are those that say, I make $100,000 a year. I want to pay for my house and I want to vacation and spend time with my family. That's why I make my money. I don't care about what it does for the company. I don't care about what it does for our mission, vision. I don't care about what it does for the people that sit next to me every day. I pull in the parking lot. I go in here. I hit these keys, or whatever I do. I get my paycheck. I go enjoy myself outside of work. There are those people. But at the same time, if you really want to elevate, right, and be and remain relevant in the job market, you have to be able to talk about why what you do matters and what value
How
you
do you say
deliver.
that to someone who's been doing what they're doing for 15, 20, 25 years? And like we're getting like the Benji the dog look like, "Hmm?" I mean, because we're asking people why does what you do matters, right? So think
Yeah.
about it. Most of us are part of some chain. So something comes from somewhere, right? It gets
Hmm.
to us in the form of work or tasks, and then we send it somewhere or we complete it, or but to be even part of that chain and not be able to speak to why this matters, why it's important. People just like, I don't know, I just move and move it. That
Yeah,
sounds like a
exactly.
fact. That sounds like an old style factory worker to me,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
And
But
yeah,
go ahead, dude, because I am
so
losing
yeah,
it over here.
yeah, yeah,
And it's
yeah,
not like
yeah.
I didn't notice, right? I've been on this value. I've been on value for a long time, right? Because
Mhm.
I believe that each of us have a responsibility to make some impact in the world. There's something that you're here to do. Otherwise, you're just a consumer. You really are just living off the energy and efforts of others. But because human beings are should be driven, I'm saying should be, I want to say are driven by purpose, but now I'm not so sure, but I know that purpose plays a role. And if you don't know why you do what you do, how could you ever get satisfaction or joy out of it? It can't be just the paycheck. Life is so much more than that.
I'd be interested to understand the impact of leadership on that mindset, right? Because I know you, Jerry.
Hmm.
You're a very engaged leader. You want everyone that reports to you to understand the value of what they're doing because one, you get more out of the worker, they connect to the mission, and they're able to
There you go.
for themselves, right? Hey, I am performing a task that doesn't move the needle forward. I'm going to ask boss, why am I doing this? Right? Or I'm performing a task that doesn't move the needle forward. And boss, I've decided I'm not going to do this. I'm going to focus on this other thing. Thought leadership, things like that. But so if I have a worker, in my opinion, and they don't have any idea as to why what they do matters, then maybe that's me as a leader and not them as an employee. I haven't messaged well in my throughout my team as to why our team matters, why the work that we do matters, how does it connect to the value that we're trying to deliver to the marketplace, to our customers, and things like that. So have these people had failed leadership, or they tone deaf and not listening?
I think it starts before you ever show up in a work environment. Because then and you say like, if someone were to say, boss, why am I doing this? I don't think most people are going to ask that because they don't want to disrupt their ability to be able to earn, right? So they're not going to open their mouths on that point.
Hmm.
So I think it's really interesting. And this is why now talking to people as we enter, when we're already into it now, this period of, sort of extreme employment and income insecurity, even when people know like something's about to happen, right? Like we know like downsizing, layoffs, this stuff is imminent. Like it's coming. And I ask
Yeah,
people, what are you doing? They're like, "Yeah, uh,
just waiting on it to
they're
happen to
they're
me.
just waiting or hoping that they're not on the list."
There you
But
go.
now if you have the person who's been in the role 5, 10, 15 years, so let's say they earn, I don't care, 75, 85, 100, 200, $300,000, you don't know your value. What if you had to replace that income,
Yeah,
right? Because now, so think about it. So you step into a job, let's say at 75, right? And I don't know anybody's numbers, so don't get upset with me. You step into the role at 75. You stay in the role long enough to get to 150, right? And now you're displaced and you have to do something different. You got to be able to tell a story.
yeah.
What did you do? Because when you stepped into that job at 75, the expectations were way different than what they are at 150. And I always look at people, it's like, yeah, folks are expecting a much more polished product,
Exactly.
right? That you are actionable, you are focused, you are engaged, and you understand your why. You know what you bring. And but when I talk to people, dude, I'm telling you, they're like, I just want to get an interview so I get the job and then someone can tell me what to do.
Hmm. Yeah, and
These are
honestly, as a leader, I wouldn't even hire that person, right? So to your point, if they're not able to tell a story, not able to talk about, and an old boss of mine, Dan Adams, when I worked for Equifax, would always say,
you using
"It's the."
names, so you're gonna get us sued.
I
I'm
hope
just
not, Dan. This is a
hold up. Don't
compliment.
want and I'm hold up. So I'm at a crossroads here, right? One
Uh-huh,
is I
uh-huh.
feel like I need to reach out to our legal team,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
based on what
Okay,
you just said.
I am the
But
legal team. Go ahead.
okay, you probably are. I do. There is so little coffee left in this mug,
Oh man.
but it is too cold for me to drink it. So I want to
Oh,
go like I'm looking. You know where I'm sitting. I'm right here. I can almost reach the microwave.
mhm.
So are you
Go
want to
ahead. I want to.
you want to drop a hot 16 or like? But I'm literally gonna go right here. It's gonna be less than 30 seconds. I feel it's kind of bougie, right? Just like, oh, I can't drink cold coffee. Like
Well, I
anyway,
think it's kind of
I'm
like
gonna do it. Go ahead. I can hear you.
you got a go, yeah. But anyway, I was you can still hear me, right?
I can absolutely hear you.
Okay. All right. So what I was saying is, he would always talk about it's all about the why behind the what, and until you start hearing leaders talk like that, and when you bring presentations to the table, or you want to talk about what you've accomplished in a mid-year review or an annual review, until you start talking about the why behind the what, it'll never matter.
Right.
And so I think that's why I brought up the leadership portion of this. And when you talked about somebody sitting at a desk in front of their boss saying, "Hey, um, how you mentioned," I wrote it down too. You mentioned about asking a boss like, why am I doing what I'm doing? I wonder how many leaders can answer that question these days, right?
Well, they don't know, and this is the thing, they don't know either. So what we just have is just these automatons, right? And on a much more personal level, it's like, okay, if you don't have a vision, mission, purpose for your life, someone's going to assign you to theirs.
Tell you, yep, they're going to assign you to
You
theirs.
see what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I think
Yeah.
maybe that's really what it is for me more than anything else, is being assigned, right? I'm not a stakeholder. I'm not invested in it. I don't have equity in it, if you will. Which is the reason why I've always had challenges with these really big sort of like when companies roll out their big mission, vision, strategy, whatever. It is so high level, that the person who is sort of, we'll call them the line worker, or who is several levels down in the hierarchy of that organization, they can't align what they do on a daily basis and say, this is why it matters because I help fulfill this. I meet this need. I solve this problem. I answer these types of questions. I innovate. I ideate. All those types of things become a bigger challenge, in my opinion.
But there's also the concept of psychological safety. We talk about people who want to, thinking outside of the box and saying and challenging the norms in a corporation is not always welcome, right? Because maybe you're challenging somebody's baby, right? I created this process. This is my baby, and I'm the EVP of everything, right? Or of whatever process, to be frank. And here comes this guy who works on the line telling me about my process being bad, or it's extracting value instead of adding value. How dare you? You weren't hired to do that. You were hired to push that button. So I think there has to be that level of psychological safety. Now, the person in that position that has that wherewithal to see the problem is the person that probably needs to get out of that culture and get somewhere where those ideation that ideation can be appreciated. Oftentimes it's stamped on, right? It's muted, and then they become exactly what you mentioned, which is that worker that every day I'm just going to push my buttons and go home.
Dude, yeah. So I always had, well, not, I didn't always do this, but in recent leadership roles, it's a requirement of a leader to help people draw the connection of what they do to the mission of this organization because
Hmm.
it fuels people with purpose, right? They know the why. I think it's easier for them to get up in the morning. It's easier for them to contribute. They have some sort of skin in the game, and I just think that they're more proud of their contribution. And again, not just like an automaton or a drone that's just doing a thing. Now, so okay, so let's get to this, and we won't have to stay on here long because I don't know if people are I don't know if they're
It's
tracking
Friday.
to
It's
why
Friday.
this is well, and I'm
I,
being nice because Fridays is no fuse, no filter for me. So I could have come on here and
yeah.
go filth the floor and filth and you know said things, right?
Is that a
Because that's what
Bill
happens on
Cosby
Fridays.
term there? Filth, flaunt. Where did I hear that from?
That was Eddie Murphy and Raw,
Okay. I knew I heard it
right?
from a
When he was talking
comedian.
about the conversation he had with Bill Cosby. But,
Yeah, yeah.
and
Okay.
remember, I still got that Bill Cosby book for you here too.
Ah, shit. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. I think I can get some of those pills.
All right,
I
but
shouldn't have said that.
so so here's the thing though. So when you look at now in terms of future lens, because again, we'll come on another time and really lay this out for people so they can see what this platform does. But I promise there's nothing like it. So it's not like, oh, I could use future lens or I could use something. No, you can't. Like what we have built here is something truly special. Um, but it's almost like it has this high bar or barrier to entry for people. And so, and I'm saying this to you in front of everybody, so maybe it's me that may probably is going to end up being corrected here, and I'm okay with that. But it's been, we put it out there, right? I remember our first conversation just about the questions in the brag sheet, right?
Hmm.
And hold on, let me go find this and tell me if I mess up the video, you'll have to tell me that. Because what I want to make sure that I have in my head, or actually in front of me, is what this term means. All right. So the brag sheet in Future Lens is brag is an acronym, which means breakthrough achievements, remarkable accomplishments, actionable experiences, and growth highlights. All right. I'm gonna say it again. Breakthrough achievements. Right. So this is where boom, you know that you made something happen, or your remarkable accomplishments, your actionable experiences, and your growth highlights, right? So that's what brag is. And I'll just give you a couple questions. The first one is, what is the most significant professional challenge you've overcome that had a major impact on your organization or career? So stop right there. Some people cannot answer that question, right? And so I'm looking at the
100%.
progression. When we first started that, 'cause I remember you challenged the questions, like too many questions, is well, because it is a thought exercise. It really is, right? Unless you're in a mode where you are tracking, right, what you're doing and accomplishments. This is what I did this quarter, I did this week, or I solved this problem, I helped this person. You're keeping your own win sheet, if you will, right? If someone keeps a win sheet, this becomes a really simple
Right.
exercise, right? And then to be able to take those contributions, and now how much of my story can I tell with numbers, right? I mean, because I'm meeting needs, solving problems, answering questions. I'm making something simpler. I'm reducing the risk of it. I'm increasing revenue. I'm getting us to more, but there's something where the more numbers you have, the better. But again, the process has been put it out there. Because to me, yeah, just answer these questions. Like, what are we talking about? Right. The second was to build a really effective user guide that had some clues on here's some ways to approach this. That's too hard. So now we have what, six onboarding videos that just kind of walk you through getting you in the mindset of being able to think back over what you've done and the impact. even if you didn't see it before, trying to help you get there. And the next thing that we would do is basically have a coach, if AI or human, that's going to walk you through this, collect your responses, and document them. Dude, I'll be darned if I think we should have to do that for people who've been in their careers 15, 20 years. So that's where I'm struggling. Like, even with all the hand holding, people are struggling to say why what they do matters. So now make it more impactful to say, if the employer looked at them and said, "Why should we keep paying you?" What's their answer?
Yeah,
They won't
great
have
question.
one.
They won't have
Also,
one.
if you can't answer these questions, you cannot interview well. So again,
Right.
the person who came in at 75 and grew to 150, they want a more polished product. You
Yep.
need to be able to say why what you do matters. Right? What impact are you making? What problems are you solving? What questions are you answering? What are you building? What are you making better? And you need to be able to tell that story to justify your own existence. If you line people up, 100 of them, based on the data, 80 of them could not tell you why their work matters.
Right. So the interesting thing is do you start, right? I just think about. I was talking to a friend of mine. We worked with in the past. We built a generative AI solution, uh, and he said, "Man, I got to tell you, we ran some numbers, and 80 to 85% of our AI usage is to help people write better emails. If I can't respond to an email, then how can I articulate what it is I do and how well I do it and why it matters in a conversation without some assistance?" So you're asking me now.
I Dude. All right. So, and I don't know if he stayed on here. I just saw Vandal Bland. Every time I see his name, it makes me think about certain types of things. The
Yeah,
thought just dropped in my head that somebody benefits from you just being a drone.
yeah, absolutely.
Somebody's benefiting. Here, let me just make this. I have to say this now. By the numbers, most of the people in this country, at least some years ago, would have identified themselves as Christian. All right. And if you add up everyone who's supposed to be connected to any form of religion, right? Any, observation of a higher power, whatever they want to call it, these are the people that are supposed to be so close to source. For you to be void of value and understanding your purpose and why you're here and what you now I'm really at a loss, because how is this possible? If you're under any type of sound teaching, you're under any type of sound leadership, and you're talking about this connection, that connection is part of your purpose. You need to know why you're here and what you're supposed to do.
Hmm.
The people are just they're living out their lives based on fulfilling the obligations of paying bills, right, which they keep creating for themselves, right? Because now the deeper I dig that hole, the more I need to hold on to this thing that I can't even articulate. What is that about?
Right. I can't answer that. I think there is a point where creativity, it's kind of that arc, right? I'm young. I'm taking risks. I'm exploring. I'm willing to take risk and be creative. And oh snap, I have responsibilities. I have to pay bills. I have to maintain something. I did not quite achieve that thing that I wanted to do. Like Jerry wanted to be some exotic dancer, and it just didn't happen for him. So now he has to take a job in corporate. So he's not living out in his passion, in his purpose. So now I'm just trying to
So why'd
make
you
sure I
stay
stay
for
at the
25
bottom.
years then? Why wasn't that a pit
That
stop
is,
while you rebuilt and retooled and then went out there? It's like I'm back at it again. Again,
yeah.
people, even if their pursuits are, because you can be entrepreneurial, but you can also be intrapreneurial, and most people
Mm,
don't even know what that word is.
I like
They
that.
have
Yep.
no idea what that is. I'm like, I'm like, yeah, this is why you're restless. This is why you don't have joy. This is why you don't have, because you're just drifting and giving all your resources, your energy, and your time to something that you can't even really see yourself in. I just
So
don't
let
think
me
that's
ask
what
you,
humans were designed to do.
100%. Let me ask you a question though, because we're in a world where sometimes leaders see the devil's advocate or the challenger in the room as someone who's not aligned with the vision, mission, and things like that, right? Always, okay, he's this person here is not not aligned. They don't understand. When
Right.
in fact, what you're really doing is challenging the norm and saying there's a better way or there's a different way that way add value. But if you're in an organization that stifles that type of thought leadership, or they, don't want to hear it because it doesn't feel aligned to where they've already decided they want to go, then that person is being programmed in a sense to become just what you're describing, which is that I'm just going to get along so I can pay my bills. So it's really about understanding when I think about Future Lens Pro and the brag sheet,
Hmm.
what some of the advice is not necessarily only tying it to your last opportunity, but maybe it's tying it to your overall body of work as a human. What did there
And
are
it
other
is.
places you've delivered value that didn't necessarily, when it wasn't at your job. So how
Right.
can, we got to bring that out of them quite
All
possibly.
right. So a couple things there. So one, in terms of being in that room, right? And I know you and I have spent a lot of time in those rooms where it's like, kiss the ring, right? It's just like you gotta, right? And that's because some of these leaders, even these executive leaders, their ego,
Yep.
and at the end of the day, their insecurity does not allow them to have a differing or dissenting opinion. But I'm like, first of all, the best decisions are made with all of the available information, which includes the things that work, don't work, how somebody else is, like the ability to be able to turn this thing and look at it from another direction, I think becomes really important. So I think that those leaders who stifle or retaliate against that behavior are small, right?
Yep.
And in a lot of these rooms, again, we've been in a lot of these rooms, it's just a society of teeny peenies, right? These they could not be more insecure, right? And
Oh,
if
that's a
you,
book.
you know, and if you look like us, part of your job is you got to walk in there and try to prove to them you're not a threat,
Exactly.
right?
That's very true.
So, but again, people who are fueled by purpose and understand their value will not stay in that situation unless you're really not aware of your value. So you feel, I have to be here. When I've heard people complain about things that happen in their place of employment, I'm like, how far do you drive to get to work? Oh, 30, 40 minutes. Do you know how many companies you drove past to get to this place that you can't stand, or you
Yep.
think they can't stand you? That if you just drove in a different direction, you could end up somewhere very, very different. But for some reason you don't see what you bring to the table or what you have to offer, and so now the job is doing you a favor
Yeah. That's
by
crazy.
continuing to pay you, and you still cannot answer the question of why they should.
Yep. Yep. Huh. Interesting. I think this is an
So
interesting conversation. I think people, when you're driving to work, it is about why am I doing what I'm doing? It's the why behind the what. It's the what, so what, now what,
now
right?
what?
Because
Right.
yeah, yeah, value always it builds. Value builds upon value. And once you hit a milestone, you can't say I've made it. You have to say, how do I make this even better? The bar has to continue to raise. And until if I'm flipping fries at McDonald's, right? There
Hmm.
is value that I'm delivering to McDonald's, and some of it is
Of course.
100%, no waste, right? Fries cost money for McDonald's just as they do for the customer. So how can I reduce waste? How can I make sure that, am I looking at this like, how many fries do I cook from 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock as we prepare for rush versus how many batches I cook between 2 o'clock and 4 when everybody's back in the office,
Yeah.
and can I reduce waste that way? So if I'm looking at my job as just I'm here to cook fries, then I'm very tactical. If I look at it as how can I make sure that we don't waste a fry, now I'm being more value driven, and I
Well,
think
but it's
it's
also, but dude, it's following the process and doing them right, right? Because
hmm
if you, we don't do a lot of fast food like that, but anymore. But it's that idea of what if they're undercooked or overcooked or oversalted
absolutely.
and all. So there's the quality aspect and knowing that your work is affecting someone's experience. So
Yep,
that customer experience, their satisfaction, the fact that they will return, the fact that they will speak, positively about, like, there's so many things. And I think some people need some guidance to at least have that framing. It's okay. Here's a list of buckets. Drop your contribution into these buckets and now come back and tell me how it
that's good.
matters. Right.
That's
Yeah, I
good.
know that might be, we might have had to do all that to get to this answer. That might be the
Yeah,
answer
it's
that we
so
have to be able to get to the buckets.
we have
And
to
so
narrow. We have
this,
to reduce it down to fast food and fries.
well, you know what?
But
Because the other analogy in my head, though, dude, and I'll say, and we're going to get off here. We've been on here for a minute.
yeah,
Is this? It's like if you've ever seen an episode of My 600 Pound Life, right? The person is
I,
clearly has bad habits, right? They had some medical issues going on. They have limited mobility, probably not in pain, and my whole thing. If you can't reach it, you can't wash it. That's a whole different. We come back to that another time. So they have all kinds of challenges. When they talk to that doctor says, I need you to lose X amount of weight before I can perform this surgery on you. That's what our problem is right now with Futureless. We have something that's so useful, but what people have to do, like I need you to lose 100 pounds in 6 months in order for me
mhm,
to do this surgery. We need people to be able to patiently deep dive what they've done and the impact of those things before we can deliver to them the most powerful career intelligence report available anywhere. It's crazy.
100%,
It's
one
like
hundred
we have
percent.
gold behind door number two. You smell fries under door number one. So you go you over there. I don't know.
You
So
know,
we go.
though, let me ask you one question before we go, and that's about
All right.
orientation.
Okay.
Right? And here's where I'm going. So I've been to a few orientations when I've changed jobs and things like. Guess what they talk about? The
Uh,
company.
the
First, it's the
company. They talk
company.
about the
Then
company.
it's the
Well, they talk about the
policy.
culture,
Yeah.
policies,
Here's what you can and can't do.
procedures.
Where's the value conversation in the orientation?
It's not what they're driven by. They're driven by compliance because just like in
Exactly.
corporate, as in other organizations, the biggest risk that some of them have is a value and purpose driven individual because they're not going to put up with their bullshit.
Exactly. So it starts there.
Those people cannot be controlled. I don't care if
Exactly.
that's in corporate. I don't care if it's in church. I don't care if it's in your nonprofit. Those people cannot be controlled. And so there's a vested interest on the part of leadership in these various types of organizations to keep you disconnected from your purpose, but at the same time, keeping you busy as hell.
And connected to their purpose, meaning I need you to do A, B, C, nothing else. I understand why A, B, C matters, but you just need to focus on A, B, and C and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can think of a company, I won't say their name, that does what they call their partnership payout every year, right? Across the board. It's like the company wide bonus. And that worked for that company in the same way that income tax refunds work on people now. They
Wow.
really built their whole lives around when am I getting my refund check?
Yeah.
And this company I think was able to extend the longevity of tenure of people there because or you're going to leave 2 months before the partnership payout and you're not going to leave right because you just bought all this stuff, right? You
Mm-hmm.
probably added to your bills or whatever. Now you need to, and it just you need to stay. So the cycle just keeps going.
Mm-hmm.
But think about the organizations. And again, I'm thinking about corporate where I've spent so much of my life. I'm thinking about church where I spent a lot of my life, other organizations that I've worked with, where the leadership has a vested interest in making sure you don't know why you're really here because they can't control you,
Yeah.
right? And
So
it's
what?
not everywhere. It's not, again, there's some people who are more people centric and
Mhm.
understand at the end of the day, right, that I have people in my company. I have people who are my customers. I have people who are my suppliers. Like, so when we look at that entire ecosystem, it's still people, right? And so you have some that have that focus and others that just don't. But if you're in an environment where you having clarity, intention around who you are and why you are, you can't be controlled.
Yep.
So I didn't want to end up here, but I am thinking about this bucket thing. So
Yeah, yeah.
anyway, all right. Any closing words? We have documented this and probably pissed some people off, but it was
I
just.
you
But
know,
we have conversations like this all the time. This is how we
yeah.
solve problems.
But it's also how we grow as human beings, and we feed off of each other. So I've never walked in a job interview feeling like I'm not prepared. Uh, it's just whether or not the value that I delivered resonates with the interviewer or the hiring manager, and if they need that type of value in their organization, or can they make the connection between how I delivered value in A, how that can be translated into value delivery for B, or if they feel threatened, like this guy could come in here and take my job, you know.
All right.
So
But you fall, and I think I do as well, in that 15 to 20, maybe 25% of people who are on the other side of that equation,
right,
right? And again, part of the downside of that is because we naturally, or at least habitually now think this way, we assume that other people
that's the
think the
challenge.
same way. And
Yep,
there's the challenge for us
yep, yep.
is
That's the
how
big
do we
challenge
bring
for
it to where people really are? But we do have this challenge of how do we introduce them to this value, knowing I need you to lose this 100 pounds before I can do this surgery on
yeah,
you.
yeah. And it's about
We got to do
it,
that.
it's about the fifth grade education. Uh, how do we take the brag sheet? Maybe we give it to a fifth grader.
I don't know that you make it any, I don't know that it gets any easier. You can phrase the questions, put them through the training, people's ability to think about where do I fit in this value chain, right? That's a kind of growed up conversation, right? Some people are not
Yeah,
prepared to have that conversation. So we'll take that back as our challenge. And so I will say this: we didn't show career future lens. We will come back on. We'll do a live, so you guys can actually see what we're talking about here and see why this platform is so powerful and will be so useful to people. Um, but if you have interest, again, hit us up, optimusbusinesssolutions.com. Get to myself, get to Sheldon on social media. That's fine. The other thing is, I recently did a keynote for a financial symposium in Philadelphia, and I ended up talking about value. We were talking about assets, but so I've created a document that's called the Human Value Proposition. If you want that, I will send it to you. Um, yeah, just leave a comment here, DM me, whatever. But it's called the Human Value Proposition. You weren't put here by accident. You're not here by mistake. Um, you're more than a big bowl of, probabilities. If you have consciousness, then you have purpose. If you have purpose, then there's value on the other side of that. We're just trying to help
absolutely.
people get to that. All
Yeah.
right, so I think we're going to
Good
go out
stuff,
of
man.
here with a little bit of we're going to do some Iroh's first jam, and then we are out because we are pushing AI generated music, and people can hate it all they want,
I want to
but
understand what
we
I wrote.
doing it out of love. Iroh's a Greek term. You know, I'm all about languages and stuff.
Yeah. I learned a new term this morning. I won't mention it.
Thank thank you. Hear about this soon. It's crazy because this is from a sketch that I promise you I did this 25, 30 years ago. Very much into my chick career phase of life.
That is crazy. It's how it interprets and keeps the same kind of foundation. I can see Tilly Norwood dancing right now.
Yeah, we're gonna turn all these into videos. I can have an album out next week. I really
Yeah, seriously, seriously.
I've done enough songs. And it's just pulling from my old sketches. Music that I had already produced and things I hadn't finished. And it's like, we got you. But for this to all be AI, it's pretty sick.
Yeah, it's sick. It's sick. Makes you think.
Alright, we on here like we're not on a live, just grooving while people are like, what's wrong with these guys?
That's pretty good,
We're
man.
still on here. Alright, I can listen to this off of here. Alright. Later, y'all.
All right, brother. Peace.
Later.